Okay, welcome to the Policy Review Committee meeting, April 16th, 2025. We'd like to acknowledge that we're on the gathered on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Inca, Kappa, and Sioux people. And so we'd like to review the minutes of the April 3rd committee meeting. Anybody moved by Councillor Egan, seconded by Councillor Charney? Any questions? Moved. Or all in favor? There we go. Okay, and then unfinished business, we have none. And okay, we have the 4.1 Trans Mountain Scholarship Fund. So we have information in front of us, and we have a motion that the policy review that the Policy and Bylaw Review Committee recommends the following to council. The council establish an annual scholarship with the 50,000 provided by Trans Mountain and for the duration that the funds are available, and that council establish a scholarship reserve to maximize the investment income related to budgeted and donated scholarship funds. That the city of Merritt Trans Mountain Scholarship be awarded annually to the graduating student from the Merritt Secondary School in the amount of 1,000 with the following criteria. So I think we need to discuss this, but we probably have to have a mover and seconder so we can discuss it, I would think.
Yeah, it can be moved now or after, it doesn't matter.
Do we want to move it to get a discussion on the table? Mover? Charney, seconded by Egan? Okay. And information and questions? Oh, sorry. I don't know. What the hell happened to it? Not on purpose.
There we go.
There we go. Sorry.
So what I have, there's three things. I'm just going to blast them out. So the first one has to be moving on to post-secondary.
Yeah.
The second one, I put either field of municipal work or gas and oil because it's coming from Trans Mountain.
Yeah.
And the third, proof of acceptance at a registered university or
I think that's
center.
standard.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I would say, what with our current ones.
What happens with the current ones is they're only paid once the registration at post-secondary
Yeah.
happens. So same, I would put the same criteria.
And Councillor Trent.
Okay, so I wrote down two different categories. Now, this is a scholarship and not a bursary, correct? Correct. Okay, so the recipient has to have academic accomplishments involved in extracurricular achievements, financial need and background. If we want to include that, that is just an option. Academic professional plans, letter of recommendation. And then I went in a little further and I said a 90% average, be involved in impactful leadership role in school, excelled in a certain area, and entering a certain program. So those are just random. So if we wanted to zoom in on some of those just some criteria. Obviously, they can't fill everything, but I just thought we could pick some of those.
Well, I agree with those points. But I'd prefer to also focus this more on the trades because it seems that you get, if you're getting a student who's getting 90%.
This is the Trans Mountain one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could,
Yeah.
perfect.
Because you get different bursaries that people get, Teachers Union, Highland, all these different groups that are offering that. And it just seems like it's one student getting 6 bursaries and 90 other students fighting for 4. And that's my only thing
Okay.
that I'd almost prefer it to not
So
necessarily have.
the lead up to that, they're going
Yeah.
into the trades.
They're going
So
into,
now what's your criteria to win this scholarship?
and I just find personally that sometimes like if they have a requirement that they have to be in a leadership role, what does that, if you're more into the woodworking side or you're going into HVAC or you're going into one of these other electrical or whatever program, what does a leadership role involve for a student in
It
that?
means that you're not in the office every week and you haven't
Okay.
been kicked out
Well, no,
and you've got good attendance. You're probably in, see, a leadership role doesn't mean you have to be the student council president, but
yeah.
you at least are some type of a role model in the school.
Okay, well that,
Or does that come down to citizenship?
Okay, citizenship, perfect. Yeah,
So
Doesn't that come down to citizenship?
yeah. So citizenship could be,
CO?
So what if, again, to build on both of what you guys were saying, Councilor Charney and Councilor Ettrick, if you said that it was based on an average, if it was someone who was taking the trades at high school and their average, 90 or 80% above average in their trades classes.
do we have trades classes at the
Yeah.
school?
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
We do?
I think now.
Okay,
we
so
do.
that means they're enrolled in the trades program in the school.
Mhm.
Well, home ec is a trade, woodwork is a trade.
They have
automotive
auto-
is a trade,
Auto repair.
so there's trades.
Yeah. And there is the opportunity in that last year to go out and do trades full time.
Yeah.
So maybe it's enrolled in the trades stream at the high school
Yeah,
and an average based on their participation in trades programs.
I think that would probably be appropriate only because 90 is, I mean, it's good. I'm not criticizing it.
But you
It's just-
still want to put some criteria
Like
on
highest
how they've
average.
done in the trades program. Because, you got Joe Blow up here and then you've got this guy that is just coming in because he doesn't want to do the science, so he's in the trades and.
Yeah.
He's the
Agreed.
bottom of so you have to have some criteria
Yeah.
that
But
they've excelled in the program, or I don't know if we want to use the word excel,
Maybe,
that's too.
maybe success.
So
was-
highest average in trades classes from grade 11 and 12.
I think
The only
that
problem
sounds
is they don't
reasonable.
use letter grades anymore. They
Yeah, they
use
don't.
Oh, in
attain,
the high school, they do 11 and
ascending.
12, they do.
Yeah.
Maybe-
And we also give them a little
Senior high
fiscus.
school, yeah.
But I mean,
Maybe,
Look at your nephew. He finished school and he's off to university at 16 years old.
Are you-
And he's in the trades.
I have two nephews doing
Well,
that
you know
same.
who I'm speaking about.
I
Yeah.
think so, yeah, and Miguel doing the same, and they're both doing very well, and they're both fortunate enough to be in this year's graduating class. And
Okay,
and
but
they're
I
both doing
mean,
well, but this is what I'm saying is that one might be doing better than the other, but they're both
so why do you
working
have to, you
very,
can't limit it to grade 11 and 12, because what if these kids?
They don't get letter
16.
grades up to grade 10. There's no
I
letter.
think those kids are still technically enrolled with the high school.
they are.
They're doing their program at an alternative site, so at NVIT. So they're still technically working towards their high school
Graduation, yeah.
graduation.
Yeah.
So for their grade 11 and 12 years, they would still get their grades from those programs.
Yeah, from TRU.
would you want to say a B and above? B average and above?
I would say. B
I would-
at the
Okay,
minimum.
so that's, what is that,
Oh,
73?
no.
Doesn't-
Well, yes, 75 is,
73.
yeah, 73, 75 is C plus, above
Go
80.
86 to 86 is the A.
So do you want to go from a 75% average or above, or 70% average or
I'd
above
say
to be
80,
considered?
80.
Well-
I'd like to see 75 and above also with attendance.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
Because if you're
Yes.
gonna be looking at trades, if I'm looking at somebody that's a trade and I'm gonna be, let's say they're 70% or maybe a little less. But if they show up every day, I mean, it's no JT on the job trainee, eventually they're gonna get the job, but if they don't show up half the school year, what's the point?
Mhm.
do you want 90% attendance, 95%
I
attendance?
would say 90%, I think that
Okay.
would be fair, because I mean,
Yeah.
people get sick, I get that.
Okay,
I mean, that's just me, I mean, the rest of council.
And so then that means also that entering a certain program. So they're excelling in a certain area, entering a certain program, so that's covered that one.
so you've got paid at the time of registration, so they're entering into a post-secondary education. It will be paid once they're registered.
Yep.
That it has to be a trades program, and that you're looking for highest average in their grade 11 and 12 years, whether they're on site at the school in their trades
Mhm.
courses. So whether they're on school or they're on another site doing a college or university extension program, that kind of thing, okay?
Mhm.
Anything about, like you had said, references or recommendation from a teacher?
Still think a letter of recommendation is nice to
The only
have.
problem I see with that, and I'm gonna be honest with you, is sometimes there is certain differences between teachers and students, and sometimes somebody who's doing very well sometimes cannot get a letter of
Okay,
recommendation.
I'll reverse that then.
So I'm not really hung up on the letter of recommendation. I think attendance, grades is good enough for me.
Yeah, you
And
don't want to,
also
yeah.
what my grandson had to do was he himself had to write a letter. And why did he feel that he should get that scholarship? And to me, that was really important for me because he had to sit down and think. He just didn't say to the counselor, I'm applying for that scholarship.
Well, I think, now correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe Yvette can correct me, but don't they have to do that to the school on every
application.
No.
application for a scholarship?
No,
Because I did.
Scholarship.
they
No,
just,
they
they
just
just,
put their
they
name
just put their
down.
name down and a lot of them put their name down for every
Bursary, yeah.
scholarship. and
But if we
bursary.
asked for a letter, it wouldn't be coming to us. It would
It
be going to
could.
the,
It would come to us and say, if that's the requirement of why do you feel that you should get this scholarship?
They'll vet.
Then they have to, and of course, they got all this other stuff built in.
Okay, but there are also people that can't express themselves on paper. They would rather do it verbally.
Then,
And now-
then verbal but they can always get someone to help them.
Yeah.
But, and if we're giving them a scholarship, we want someone who can, at least because once they get into university or trades program, they are going to have to do some
They're
paper.
gonna have to do some.
Yes.
One of the requirements is a capstone, so they have to verbally present what their plans are for their future or what they're interested in. You wanna do that in front of a committee.
So I think that's maybe the idea is instead of a written note, they do a presentation to a committee of council. Cause right now we don't, the two that we currently give, the school directly awards. We don't have any say, but maybe council wants to have these students who are interested in this. Maybe the school sends us 5 finalists or 10 finalists and they do a verbal presentation of why.
Because that may be a deciding factor between 3 students that are really close and how they present themselves.
and then we
Yes.
would make a recommendation that would go back to the
To the school
school.
to award it.
I'm fine with that.
And Cynthia, the other two scholarships we give, can we not change that and put our
Do the same.
criteria?
Absolutely.
And so I think that if we're giving that scholarship, I think we should be more hands-on involved.
Okay, so I will, maybe this year isn't the year to change that.
No, it'll be for next year.
But we'll do that for next year and maybe you want to put more criteria.
Yep.
Maybe you want to have a healthcare scholarship. Maybe you want to have because it doesn't, I think, we've kind of talked about the idea that it's that the top students always get scholarships.
Yep.
Whereas if you had somebody who was a good student and was
And
going
trying.
into a specific area that we know we need healthcare people, we need nurses, we need rehab professionals, like our physiotherapist, only physiotherapist in the community is leaving. Right, so we need those kinds of allied health professions. And they may not be the top student. Maybe they're a speech language therapy assistant kind of program. So these are, or an education assistant, those kinds of programs where it's more hands-on, right?
I do like the idea of picking for one of them at least a certain criteria that they're going into that program.
Well, and also if you're doing a bursary, it's also nice to have some
It's not a
input.
bursary though. A bursary is on
Scholarship.
financial, unless we want to
Scholarship.
change one to a bursary. A bursary is on merit of financial assistance.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know that you necessarily want to be assessing people's
Yeah.
financial stuff.
No,
Yeah.
But they can present that as part of their, nobody from my family's ever graduated from a post-secondary institution. Nobody in my family is a trade, so this is an opportunity to elevate my family. They could present those kinds of things. And I could write out a few criteria for their presentation. And maybe touch base with you all about that as well.
Yeah.
Time limit.
Hmm?
And a time limit on the presentation.
Yes, like a 2-minute.
well, to be honest, I don't think we have to worry about some
Yeah,
of these
no,
young
it'll be
people
quick.
going on for too long.
So
Well, just in the same breath though, is some people that would prefer to write as opposed to speak.
Yeah,
And they
and I
can
think,
read it.
yeah, I
They
think
can
that's the
read it.
opportunity where they can read it, or even if they couldn't read it, one of us could read it on their behalf, right?
Yeah.
Like if they have stage fright or whatever, it could be read out on their behalf.
And you know what? They are only grade 12. So they haven't had a lot of experience with things like this. So, I mean, we can help them as much as we need to. But if they've got to the top 5, is it five?
I mean,
You know,
we
whatever.
can kind of, like, I think the first year you kind of just see what we get and then we can
Mhm.
adjust this as we go. And just as we're gonna adjust the current scholarships, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you might find that $1,000 is decide, oh, that's not really enough. Let's do something bigger because it now costs 3 times what it did 2 years ago to go to university or college. I mean, we're lucky kids who graduate here can go to NBIT for that first year. It's pretty amazing. But it's not the case everywhere.
No.
So.
Can I go back to, that we establish a scholarship reserve? So does that mean we're going to feed that scholarship reserve?
No, we're gonna put this money in.
So we're gonna put that money into it, but are we feeding it also?
So what we would do is we would put the 2,000 every year into it. And it generate interest until it was.
Yeah.
Given
Yeah.
out. Because really by the time they register, it's fall. So we'll be generating a little bit of interest there. And then what we should be thinking about is advertising for additional scholarships that we could, that the city would give based on, cooperation with another organization. Let's say a local business wanted to give a scholarship and they were like, how do we maximize the value of the scholarship? Will you put it into our scholarship reserve?
We decided on the amount.
I think $1,000.
I think 1,000, we should start with 1,000 and go from there.
Yeah, I think 1,000 is good.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah,
And you decided 2 of them, right? Or
Well,
one of them?
because the city already has one and
the
we're doing,
Trans Mountain.
City has 2.
City
The
is
city
2.
has 2 and then
This
the
would be a
Trans
third.
Mountain
Okay.
is 1.
Okay,
Should be a third.
Okay.
Yeah, so that.
So I think we're doing our
total.
1,000 or 2,000?
2, all 3 would be 1,000.
Yeah.
so because we currently have the 2,
And
so
then
there should be
this one, Trans Mountain.
$3,000 worth of scholarships every year the city would give out.
Yeah, I think that, I think that's excellent.
And the Trans Mountain one, remember we talked about a long time ago about the banners of having the grad pictures on the banners, like
Mhm.
we use some of that money towards that?
No.
Okay.
But I do think,
I
like,
tried.
again, once we've stabilized where we are with our tax increases, this might be something council wants to think about is building more scholarship opportunities.
Well, I don't, personally, I mean, for the scholarship reserve, I personally don't have an objection to feeding it each year, maybe in the amount of $1,000. And so that maybe every 5th year or something, we could give more, depending on the health of it.
Mhm.
But I mean, $1,000 in the scheme of it per year is not that drastic.
It's
And
what Kevin would call,
indiscriminate
kitty litter.
or whatever.
yeah, he would be like, oh, $1,000.
Yeah.
It's like pocket change.
But for the
For those
reserve,
things.
it's kind of big and, we could keep building that up
Mhm.
and then, maybe we're really generous one year and give 5 out.
Right, maybe there's celebratory years where we're
Mhm.
like, this is the whatever anniversary of the city, so we want to give out a $10,000 bursary, or we want our
Mhm.
scholarship or whatever, right? Like you have those opportunities.
Mhm.
I do think and I think people appreciate that, we don't have to give out scholarships. Maybe CUPE would like to have our staff scholarship go in,
And I also think that the students that we pick, instead of just having their name listed, maybe we could have a picture with the mayor and we present it so that it goes into the paper, so it's not just jammed in
That
with
happens.
all the other stuff.
So every time I've handed out our scholarships, pictures are taken and they're in the paper.
Oh, I guess I've missed that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Your
Every time.
smiling face I've missed.
I always like handing out money.
Yeah,
I like getting money. He likes giving it away. I don't know what the problem is.
so can we put down the $1,000 a year into the reserve? Add that down?
You can bring it to council,
Yeah, but that's what I mean, to bring it to council?
see what they feel.
Yeah, I can put that in as a resolution.
Well, for
Is Trans
criteria,
Mountain gonna be okay with all of that? That
Yep.
they've started? Okay,
Yeah, when they hand you the money, you do whatever you want with it after that.
so are we gonna recap this and then just make a motion to bring this to council?
Yeah, so I'll give you a quick recap. So you're establishing the scholarship. You're establishing the reserve fund. You are going to have a motion or a resolution to contribute $1,000 additionally to the reserve fund
Per year.
per year. And the criteria for the scholarship will include it will be paid at the time of registration to post-secondary. It would be for people who are entering into trades. It will be based on highest average in your trade classes or trades program from grade 11 to 12. Sorry, over 75%. You must have over 75% average in your trade classes from grade 11s and 12s, 90% attendance for those 2 years. And then you will have to present to council.
Citizenship too. Or we could
Yes,
put- are we
citizenship,
putting
sorry,
citizenship?
yes, citizenship.
And you should also say, like, when you say 75% from your grades from 11 and 12, or the transition.
That still is grade
educational-
11
same
and 12.
thing.
Yeah,
It's the
I have
same.
to figure out what the name of that is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just, I think it's just called the trades program. This is still high school.
yeah, they're still getting their high school diploma.
Yeah.
So, but I will put all that to make sure all the language is good, but that's basically the criteria you want to go with.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. And then council will, there'll be presentation to committee of council will vote
Yea or nay?
on their candidate annually.
Perfect.
And we'll start this. I mean, I'm sure all the bursaries are decided already for 2025 anyway. Maybe not. but-
Not yet.
No,
No,
not till.
the
after
committee's
one's
not
out.
until like the end of this month. at the
So
high
we
school.
could get this, if you guys pass this on Tuesday, we can get it into the rolling in for this year. Would be our goal.
Perfect.
Excellent.
Okay, so being that we've decided on these things and we just make a recommendation to push this to council then?
Yeah.
We don't need to vote then, because it's just a,
You have to vote.
okay, so motion moved, seconded by Cherney, all in favor,
Okay.
great. Okay, we don't have any information items, so we are terminated.
That's it?
That's it.
You shaved your legs